Hi, Kerry here. I'm here at what I call my office at the beach. We're down here 2 weeks at the Panhandle of Florida at Watercolors. This is where we've celebrated Thanksgiving for the last, I would say, 35 years. It's a family gathering, and I'm just turning this beautiful Gulf scenery into my office. And today I want to talk about what is happening in the metaverse and how I believe that Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, is going to appear on your radar right next to Bill Gates and Steve Jobs of the future of the internet. And as the internet turns into the metaverse, and he has an influence in the infrastructure of the metaverse through what he is calling the Omniverse. This is a lot of verses, and it's a lot of difficult understanding, and I want to try to help you understand it better so you know how to invest, and why I think that Nvidia will become the Apple or the Microsoft of the next 10 years. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to bring it into a language that I can understand, and hopefully you can understand, and you can see the value in investing in Nvidia and some other metaverse stocks are going to be. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to enjoy this beautiful scenery. Not a whole lot of people at the pool today because the temperature has dropped a bit. It's a bit windy, a bit chilly, wearing a little bit of a jacket. But let's get right to it in just a second when I tell you I'm not your financial advisor.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
Okay, Nvidia had their earnings report just this last Tuesday, and they showed a 50% growth in their revenues, and that kind of coincides with a lot of talk from Mark Zuckerberg about the metaverse, and Jensen, the CEO of Nvidia, related how the Omniverse was going to fit into that, and I'm striving to understand exactly how it's going to work, and they're using terminologies called CPUs and GPUs, and I'm trying to understand exactly what they mean and bring them into my world so that I can make a good investment decision. So here's what I understand. First of all, understand that NVIDIA's profits this last quarter had nothing to do whatsoever with the metaverse. It had, in fact, to do with their servicing of companies like Amazon cloud services and Microsoft's cloud services and Google's, and their processors that are helping introduce artificial intelligence into this huge amount of data that they have gathered. So where I got excited is his explanation of what the Omniverse will be. And that is they will take the internet and allow you and I an entry into it through our avatar. Now they talk about CPUs and GPUs. And as I understand it, a CPU is a chip that handles a sequence of processes very rapidly to distribute data and assist you in achieving what you want to achieve on the internet. And they call that the brains of the chips, the brains of the data centers is the CPUs. Now the GPUs, which NVIDIA was very instrumental in developing, is more of one, they call that the brawn. In other words, it takes different unrelated processes and makes them work together. I think of it, and again, I have to bring things back to basics, as to how I manage my body. I have two elements. I have the brain, and in order to manage that, I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of studying, I do some processes to keep my brain active. I'm on the computer a lot, and I'm doing a lot of reading and research. That's activating my brain. But Then I have the brawn of my body that also has to be serviced and maintained. And so this morning I got out and ran 2 miles. Yesterday afternoon, I got on my bike and I rode 10 miles. So that's building the muscle structure, the brawn of my body. That's the GPU of the process. And as we get into the metaverse and we're not so much processing data and distributing information, where in fact, I should share with you, there's a naval base down here, and that's what you're hearing there is the fighters flying across and the young men training. So excuse that, but it's a small price to pay for such a beautiful office. So again, getting back to the metaverse, as I enter the internet through the metaverse, I'm going to need an avatar. And that avatar is going to help walk me through the process. It's going to give me the persona that I want, the personality that I want to project into the metaverse. As I was talking to Richard this morning, we were having coffee, and he said, well, exactly how that would work. And I say, well, Richard's 74 years old. He looks 74. I said, let's assume that you wanted to go into the metaverse and you wanted to be a 34 and you wanted to approach a 30-year-old and you wanted to kind of have a little bit of a romance with her. Well, you would dress your avatar in the trendiest clothes, and you'd look a lot better than you do today, and you'd engage with this young lady. And he said, and she may or may not be 30 years old. Yeah, she could be 80 years old, but she's a different avatar. But it really doesn't matter. But you're going to live through that avatar, and that's part of the Omniverse, and that's what NVIDIA is going to make possible for you. Now, through haptic technology, right now you understand the internet that you can see and you can hear, but now you're going to, through haptic, you're going to be able to touch. So you'll be able to embrace that beautiful young girl who you think is 30 years old and maybe 80 years old, but it really doesn't matter because you'll be able to live through that. That is what the GPU is going to make possible. Now, the other thing that I learned as I read through his transcript of their profit earnings is that you're going to also have an avatar in your car, and that through GPU and CPU, your avatar in your car will help you make decisions. And I have heard of this comparison that I'm going down the highway, and I'm going to have to swerve to avoid a terrible accident, and if I swerve right, I'm going to hit a dog, and if I swerve left, I'm going to hit a child. Which do I make? And it's got to be made split-second decision. Well, your avatar through GPU and CPU will make that decision for you, right or wrong. Now let's change it and say it's not a dog, but it's an 80-year-old as opposed to a 5-year-old. You got to make that decision. Your avatar will make that decision for you. It will also evaluate the situation on the road, and in essence, this will be what will create the ability for you to have autonomous driving and make good, sound decisions. There's some legal ramifications here that haven't been explored, but I think that's interesting as well. So my message to you is what you're seeing in Jason, the CEO of NVIDIA, is a young Bill Gates or as a young Steve Jobs. This is the guy who's going to take us into the new dimension of the internet, and you need to be invested in them. I have about $40,000 in NVIDIA stock. I bought in at about $300 a share. It's now in the last couple days. Again, nothing to do with the metaverse or the omniverse, but has to do with their current earnings as a result of the growth of their chips within the database handling of information, the current internet. This is something you want to own. This is a man, if they are going to carve a Mount Rushmore of the innovators of our world, his face is going to be in the rock. So you want to be a part of it. And Richard said to me, you paid $300 a share for it? And I asked him, I said, well, would you be more comfortable with it at $3 a share? He said, oh, yes, I would. I said, well, what difference does it make? If I believe and you believe, as a result of what I just told you, that it's going to 20x in the next 10 years, what difference does it make if it's selling for $3 a share or $300 a share? Yeah, you don't get as many shares, but you still invest the same amount of money, and it's going to 20x. So is it at a buy at now 329 or whatever it is? I don't know, but I want to own it at 3,290, and I'm willing to pay the price. I suggest you do that as well. As you can see, I think about the stock market a little differently than most people. I'm in it for the long haul. I don't need this money today. I can afford to have my office here at the beach, at the pool, here at Watercolors, on what I have now, and I don't care what happens to the price of Nvidia today, tomorrow, next week. What I'm interested in is what is it going to be worth 10 years from now. And so I'm investing in those things of the future that are going to change the way that I live, my children live, and my grandchildren live. And they are biotech, as we move from medical care to medical cure. They are the metaverse as we take the next step into the technology of the internet and the digital revolution. And then they are bringing the supply chain back to the United States. We were not the recognized superpower until after World War II, when we became the manufacturer for the world. We've, over the last 20 years, given up that status to China, and they are now becoming the manufacturer of the world. And we have to recapture that in the areas that are going to change the way we live. And in that case, I need to own 3D printing and robotic stocks. I have not identified the robotic stocks, but I have identified the 3D printing stocks. They are taking one hell of a beating, but they are my investment in the future, because I am going to change the status of the Grinkmeyer family by making smart investment decisions in 2021 that are going to pay off big from 2030 through 2050. That's my take on Nvidia, and I think you should buy it at whatever price, and I'll be talking to you again tomorrow. In fact, I'll talk to you this afternoon on our Zoom call that we do through our Patreon. Have a good day.